Did you know that planes used to have square windows? And in 1954, 2 of them broke apart in mid-air, killing everyone on board because of it. The investigation that followed changed aviation forever. And every oval window on every plane you've ever flown in exists because of what they found. Here's the story. The DeHavilland Comet was the most advanced aircraft in the world when it entered service in 1952. It was the world's first commercial jet airliner, faster than anything before it, quieter. It cruised at 35,000 feet, above the weather, above the turbulence. It carried Queen Elizabeth in its first year of service. The world was watching. Britain had built the future of flight. And then, on January 10, 1954, BOAC Flight 781 departed Rome bound for London. 20 minutes into the flight, climbing toward 27,000 feet, radio contact cut off mid-sentence. Witnesses on the island of Elba saw the aircraft fall into the sea in flames. All 35 people on board were killed. 3 months later, a second comet broke apart over the Mediterranean. Another 21 lives lost. 2 identical aircraft, 2 catastrophic mid-air disintegrations, within months of each other. Britain's aviation industry was in crisis, the Comet fleet was grounded, and the greatest aviation investigation in history began. Engineers took an entire Comet fuselage, placed it in a giant water tank, and subjected it to repeated pressurization cycles, inflating and deflating the cabin thousands of times to simulate years of flight. After the equivalent of 3,057 flights, the test fuselage burst. And they found the cause. Here's the physics, and it's simpler than you'd expect. Every time a plane climbs to altitude, the cabin is pressurized to keep passengers comfortable. Every time it lands, that pressure releases. Each cycle, up and down, stresses the fuselage slightly. 1 flight, barely noticeable. 100 flights, still fine. But after hundreds and hundreds of cycles, microscopic cracks begin to form. And here's the critical part. On the Comet, those cracks formed at the corners of the windows, because of a phenomenon called stress concentration. When stress travels through a material and hits a sharp corner, it can't flow smoothly around it. Instead it bunches up, amplifies, at the corner of a square window. The stress can be 3 times higher than in the surrounding metal. Every pressurization cycle, those corners experienced 3 times the stress of everything else. After roughly 1,000 flights, the cracks grew large enough that the fuselage could no longer hold itself together. At 35,000 feet, at cruising speed, in under a second. The fix, once discovered, was almost embarrassingly simple. Round the corners. An oval or circular window has no sharp corners for stress to concentrate at. The load flows smoothly around the curve, distributed evenly across the entire frame. The stress concentration problem disappears almost entirely. From that day forward, every commercial aircraft in the world was required to have rounded windows. A design rule born from disaster that has protected every passenger on every flight ever since. Here's a number that puts this engineering lesson in perspective. Since the Comet crashes and the introduction of rounded windows and mandatory fatigue testing, the rate of commercial aviation accidents caused by structural failure has fallen by over 99%. Today, commercial aviation is statistically the safest form of transport ever created. Your odds of dying on a commercial flight are approximately 1 in 11 million. But here's what makes the Comet story remarkable beyond the tragedy. The investigation didn't just fix windows. It invented an entirely new field of engineering, metal fatigue testing. Before 1954, engineers didn't fully understand how repeated stress cycles could destroy metal that had never been overloaded even once. The Comet taught the world that metal has a memory, that small stresses, repeated thousands of times, can be more destructive than one enormous force. Every bridge, every skyscraper, every aircraft, every pressure vessel built since 1954 is designed with metal fatigue in mind. Because of 56 people who didn't come home. And here's the detail that changes how you see every flight you've ever taken. The oval windows on modern aircraft aren't just rounded to prevent stress concentration. They're also small, deliberately small. At 35,000 feet, the pressure difference between inside the cabin and outside is enormous. Every window is essentially a plug holding back that difference. The smaller the window, the less surface area under pressure, the less structural load on the frame. But here's where it gets clever. The windows you look through aren't even the structural window at all. There are actually 3 panes in every aircraft window. The outer pane is structural, it bears the pressure load, the middle pane is a backup. And the inner pane, the one you press your face against, is just a scratch guard. That tiny hole you sometimes see at the bottom of the middle pane? It's called a breather hole. It equalizes pressure between the middle and inner panes, so that all the structural load stays on the outer pane, and the backup stays unstressed and ready. 3 layers, 1 hole, decades of engineering lessons, all visible from your seat. So next time you look out of that oval window at 35,000 feet, you're not just looking at a design choice. You're looking at the lesson written in the wreckage of 2 aircraft that fell into the Mediterranean in 1954. Rounded corners so stress flows smoothly. Small size to minimize pressure load. 3 panes so the backup is always ready. Every oval window on every plane in the sky is a permanent memorial to the engineers who figured out what went wrong, and made sure it could never happen the same way again. That shape isn't aesthetic, it's a solution. That's it for today. Drop a comment. Does knowing this make you feel better or worse about flying? We want to know. If this made you think, subscribe, because we explain something new every single week. Now you know.